Howdy, everybody. Welcome back. Today's Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. I'm Trae Crowder, and that there is Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trae? Did you this is a sad diversion, but did you watch any of the UFC fight this weekend?
No, I actually purposefully avoided watching clips because I know from Twitter and from the group text and stuff that
Yeah.
apparently it was extremely gruesome, and I'm not great
Yeah.
with that type of thing, so I didn't look it up.
Me neither. That's why I actively avoid combat sports, but I didn't even know it was UFC fight night, and I was trying to watch a basketball game, and I'm there, and like 98% of this TVs are on this niche sport, which I didn't even know was happening. And two consecutive matches had guys where their legs just fell off, basically. And I did not need to see that. And it's horrified. I ruined my whole weekend.
You called it niche. I feel like it's not really niche anymore, right? I mean, that's why I know they're showing it because of the sensationalist, gruesome nature of the particular thing that happened. But like ESPN covers all those things and stuff now, right? It's like, it's big shit at this point.
I mean, ESPN televises bowling and poker too. So I don't know where to I don't know where to like rank it, but I do say like I live in Los Angeles, the home of the world champion Los Angeles Lakers, who are playing a very important game against my team, the Dallas Mavericks, on national television. And out of 20 TVs, we had to beg to get that on one, and that seems unbalanced to me.
Yes, I agree with you. But hey, if it bleeds, it leads, right? If the leg falls off, it's going off. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, you get what I mean. I took a swing. All right. Well, with us as always is producer Matt doing the thing. This right here is Weekly Skews tonight. Where's the beef? Well, I'll tell you where it's not. In the cards for American conservatives if Joe Biden has his way. That's right. Not content to merely take their guns and Bibles, we on the left have set our sights firmly on their cheeseburgers. We will talk
about cows are canceled, Trae. They're canceled.
Finally got to the cows. Also, it may surprise you all to hear that it's seeming more and more as though conservatives in this country can tend towards being a little hypocritical. I know. Also, overly sensitive, easily offended. It's hard to believe, but mounting evidence seems to support the hypothesis. For that conversation, we will be joined by our guests tonight, two embattled professors from my alma mater, Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee, Dr. Andrew Smith and Dr. Julia Gruber, who are currently under fire, receiving death threats, and facing possible disciplinary action for putting up flyers that hurt the feelings of a conservative colleague. No, poor guy. All that and more on tonight's Skews, but first, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's dumbass is, I believe for the first time, and boy are we honored to have him, Rick Santorum, who has a interesting perspective on the state of this country when the first European settlers arrived. Matt, play the clip, please.
We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. There's nothing here. Yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. It was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith, to live as they ought to live, and have the freedom to do so.
It's you know how racist you have to be to use the phrase "birth of a nation" in the sentence, and it wasn't even part of the racism.
I know, right? Exactly. That was like a offshoot of the main shitty thing he was doing. He also used the phrase "birth of a nation" while erasing the presence of Native Americans when the settlers arrived. It's just. Like, look, there was nothing here. We came here and built all this. There were some things we had to take care of, sure. But mostly, there was nothing here. We built this Jesus theme park up from nothing, and here we are today.
It is extremely hilarious to me just to say that there's no Native American culture in American culture in front of an audience exclusively rich enough to have where all their kids play lacrosse. That was it's fucking funny to me. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like we're gonna get to like talking about like conservatives versus American history later a little bit, I think. But if you just remembering stuff is anti-American, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
so why you're just bringing up old shit? Like Americans went through marriage counseling, and now we're not supposed to we're just supposed to bring up fights we had before 2011 or something. It's like it's just we're not saying you, Rick Santorum, slaughtered some natives. We're just like it fucking happened. I don't know.
Right. Well, the natives have always been, for the Rick Santorums of the world, a real inconvenience. Like, they were an inconvenience back then, and then now in the narrative, they're an inconvenience. But I like what you said about lacrosse. We hadn't planned on doing this, but I Googled it real quick because I love this. You said he did this in front of an audience whose, children have enough money to play lacrosse at a high level. There was a thing that went viral about a year ago that was a list of actual top tier lacrosse players' names in this country, from places like Johns Hopkins and the Rhode Island Institute of Technology and places like that. And I want to read you a couple of these actual names here. Shackelford Stanwyck Sr., Quinn Commandant, Holden Rosengrupp, Dar Sleeper, Sky Dupree, Taggart Eimer, Dallas Creamer, Colby Hamway Jr., Wheaton Jacoboyce the First, Tanner Elwood, Caden Keitlinger, Con Curry, Gage Barber, Rain Schamberger, and Hampton Brannon, among others. So yeah, get a good glimpse of who's playing lacrosse.
Decades before Aunt Becky from Full House figured it out, the northeastern white rich people have figured out how to backdoor their kids getting athletic passes in the colleges they don't deserve via lacrosse, which is exclusively basically what that boys' sport is for. But it looks like it may be fun to play. You hit people in the head with a stick, which hits. But I don't really understand the point of it otherwise. It's yeah. I went to I never knew what lacrosse was till I got to college. I went to a school that had a pretty good lacrosse team for a D3 school, and I had all these kids from Long Island who were probably huge disappointments to their parents, who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach them to play lacrosse so they could get into the Ivy League, and ended up sitting next to me in fucking English class. So congrats to them.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm sure all of y'all do, but lacrosse is a Native American sport. They have one of the tribes, I'm forgetting it now because it's been a long time since I saw this, but they still compete at a high level in lacrosse as their own nation, and do really well at it. But the representation at the big schools and everything is a little bit different. You got old Shambleford Dickinson the third or whatever I said.
how is that not a movie? Because it seems they always make a movie about the first the first the first black NCAA basketball team that won a title, West Texas State. I forget, I'm blank on the name of the university or whatever. They beat Kentucky in a fairly famous game, or there are a bunch of made up versions, like the first all black swim team or whatever. But here you have the people that originated the sport kicking ass of the people who stole it, which flips the paradigm. I want to see that movie. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think we've lamented recently there's not enough sports movies in general anymore. Bring them back. Start with that one. That would hit. But let's do some honorable mentions here for our dumbasses. First honorable mention: anybody who wouldn't drive 19 hours to work just to avoid wearing a piece of cloth over their nose. So there's a Alaskan state representative or state senator, Laura Reinbold, who has been banned from Alaskan Airlines because she refuses to wear a mask. And as a result of that, she had to drive across, the Great White North, the wilderness. I ain't been up there, but I understand
Trae,
it's a whole thing.
Look, you and me don't really have a conception of how big Alaska is, or I don't at least. But this lady should have. She's from there. And so, just by the way, because she wouldn't put on a mask, they're going to play in this video of it, but it's just boring. It's just her harassing an airline employee and filming them and asking a cop what his badge number is, or whatever. So to get to the legislature, she had to drive 750 miles, including a 4 or 5 hour ferry ride, and she had to go through a couple Canadian border checkpoints. This idiot, I wanted to call her a worse name. This fucking idiot had to drive through Canada to get to work because she didn't want to wear a mask.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the lengths they will go to harm themselves, which I believe this will also be relevant when we get to the
Yeah.
beef talk later, just
Uh-huh.
to like prove a point, or not to prove, but to own us, to own the libs, is just something else, dude. Like I've driven across big chunks of this country, both in moving to California and doing the tour and driving between cities and stuff. And if you told me like you can avoid this 10-hour drive if you just wear this piece of cloth over your face,
Hmm.
that's a no-brainer, man. Like that's the easiest proposition in the world, but not for these people. They got principles, Mark. They stand on them.
I mean, Trey, imagine a slightly different universe where COVID was spread exclusively through farts, and the public health measure was to ask people to wear pants. Like what the airports would look like right now.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It's also like there's this sort of general lack of empathy with their side. It seems like because it's been proven that multiple times at this point that the wearing of a mask really protects everyone else, right? So going to those lengths to refuse to do that is just such a dick move, but they don't see it that way. It's their own personal freedoms that they've got to protect.
It's like basically no downside and unlimited upside. I mean, like I said, no downside. I don't like wearing a mask. I'm
No,
like they
nobody
seem to
does, dude. I wear
they
glasses.
yeah
You wear glasses too. It fogs my
yeah
glasses up. Dude, I can't stand wearing a mask, but I still
yeah.
do it.
But it's an inconvenience, but it's a fairly minor one in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And the upside of it is maybe someone else gets to still be alive. So it's a very small trade-off. So I just but like imagine like it's always a fun intellectual experiment to think about like what if something didn't exist and libs proposed it right now? For how would like for example, try to imagine if there were no public libraries and you pitched a public library at a city council meeting.
Dude. Oh my God. Even
You'd be a
fire
huge
departments
communist.
and shit would be no-goes.
Imagine, I think we've done this one before, but imagine if like police didn't exist and Obama suggested them.
Right. Yeah.
Obama wants to put an armed agent of the state on every corner to police your thoughts, right? But since 2020, since 2016, shit's gotten so dumb, it literally could do that with pants now. If pants didn't exist and someone sewed them and suggested they'd be required to enter a 7-Eleven, imagine.
No pants.
We don't have to imagine. We don't have to imagine. There'd be people carrying guns around saying I'm not wearing pants in the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, pantsless people with guns. That's what we need right there. Like as if they didn't look ridiculous enough, they'd have the sort of like mall ninja body armor and everything on up top, but no pants with an AR-15 at a fucking Arby's or whatever.
Well,
oh my God.
That makes more sense than those mall ninjas. They like to get tactical pants, but they get them like they're like quadruple XL and they get them baggy, right? Tactical pants are supposed to be tight so you can move it, so you can fight in them, right? So like they're already wearing pants wrong. It doesn't matter.
They're wearing pants wrong.
They're wearing pants wrong.
No, I'm with you. You're right. All right, our next honorable mention. This is a hypothetical dumbass here. Anyone who broke into Kevin McCarthy's bathroom during the January 6th insurrection. That's House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. Why would that have been a dumb move to break into McCarthy's bathroom? Because waiting inside the bathroom is Arkansas Representative Bruce Westerman, who was standing there with a Civil War sword he pulled off the wall, crouched on the toilet defending himself from the insurrectionists. So yeah, you don't want no part of that, Mark.
Yeah. First of all, I don't believe the Civil War cover story. This motherfucker's a Highlander. I'm going with that. But it's just, but I'm starting. It just kind of gives me sympathy to Lauren Boebert. Like she complains about not being able to carry her handgun around the Capitol complex. Like this dude gets to carry around a sword. I think she should get her handgun. It's only fair.
Sure.
Yeah. But this guy, by the way, a week later voted to not convict Trump of impeachment because, of course, he did because the kind of guy has a Civil War sword in his wall. But he almost died. He thought he was going to die to the point he armed himself and sealed himself off in a bathroom, and still thinks Trump's the hero of the story.
Yep.
This guy's great.
Producer Matt says, you know, that was a Confederate sword. And yeah, absolutely. There's no way
Yeah.
he wouldn't besmirch himself with a Yankee sword, Matt.
Unless his grandfather captured it off a dead Yankee, in which case he would absolutely have it.
Right. Okay. Our next honorable mention, anybody out there who's ever doubted the artistic capabilities of Texans. Mark, you're a Texan. Not fair. You got a lot of artistic capabilities, right?
Yeah, well, I only lived in Texas. I lived in Texas from when I moved there when I was 21.
Right.
20,
yeah,
21.
You're an adopted Texan.
Yeah, but yeah, we got a lot of ingenuity and a lot of creative spirit, and this sometimes manifests itself. And yeah, as Matt points out, I'm wearing a Getty Museum shirt. Love art.
Yeah.
I took my mom, got a T-shirt.
Well, let's show people what we're talking about. Matt, throw it up there. Look at this. True artistic masterpieces found around San Antonio recently. I kind of apologize to y'all for showing y'all this, but at the same time, the other part of me is like, look, I had to see it. Y'all had to see it too. For anybody that's just listening, first of all, bless you for not having to see this. But it's a Photoshop picture of Ted Cruz in a BDSM get-up. It's like wrapped around his boobs and his guts sticking out really far, and he's got gloves on, and there's a tattoo that says Proud Boy across his stomach, and it is truly upsetting, this picture. But I'm glad that people are doing it. I'm glad they're putting it out there.
Somebody put up from the pictures. I can't tell whether it's like merely dozens or hundreds, but the like fathead size stickers are basically human size, or posted basically put on walls all over San Antonio. Ted Cruz is not popular there. Beto had run. Ted Cruz won the Republican primary with like 30% of the vote, has been barely winning majorities. Like he's very, very beatable. Beto almost beat him. If it'd been a presidential election year, like with Biden on the ticket, he would have won. And I look forward to that. I mean, I'm not sure what Ted Cruz would do in his post Senate life, but I look forward to seeing what that is, and I hope it's painful and miserable.
Yep. All right. Our last honorable mention for Daily Dumbass today. Anybody out there who doesn't understand the nuance of American history, and that'll make sense in just a second. Matt, play this clip. This is Louisiana.
But what is a larger course of academic instruction?
If you're having a discussion on whatever the case may be on slavery, then you can talk about everything dealing with slavery, the good, the bad, the ugly,
There's no good to slavery, though.
Well, then whatever the case may be.
You got to cover it all, Mark. You got to be fair. You got to talk about all the good parts of slavery, just to be even-handed. I love that the other representative, Rep Hilferty there, just immediately came back with the appropriate response to that. You know what I mean? Because so many times I feel like when something like that happens and somebody like that says it, you're almost so kind of blown away that they actually said that thing that you miss the opportunity to come back at them the way that she did. It's like with the obvious response, there's no good to slavery. You're like, well, whatever the case may be.
There is that was a legislative hearing on some sort of legislation that would, in reaction to the 1619 project and all that and stuff like that, Republican legislators are trying to figure out a way to ban teachers from telling kids that America did bad things. So that's ostensibly what this hearing is about. And it is funny because like what's happened is they've lost, just like everything else with the internet, they've lost control of the narrative because kids can look up what slavery was like. And so they're trying, and teachers feel less bound to like, myth-making bullshit. So their kids are hearing more unvarnished truths. It's like, but like, this is their version of combating QAnon, is kids getting on the internet and finding out slavery is bad. They're trying to like, but they're not trying to stop disinformation. They're trying to stop information. It's just really fucking funny.
Yeah. You're right. They're trying to halt information and propagate the shit out of disinformation, which leads us to our top story tonight, the great Hamburglary. Joe Biden coming for your cheeseburgers. Mark, will you set this up for us, please?
Joe's going to Hamburgle Trae. So out of nowhere, seemingly last week, there became this right-wing meme that Joe Biden is going to steal your fucking hamburgers. All right. So this first video is a pretty good sample of the straight news version of the coverage. If you throw that up, Matt.
Say goodbye to your burgers if you want to sign up for the Biden climate agenda. That's the finding of one study. In order to help hit the Biden administration's climate goals of reducing emissions by 50% from 2005 by 2030, researchers say you'd have to cut about 90% of red meat from your diet. For Americans, that means a limit of 4 pounds of red meat per year, or break that down further, a single average-sized burger every month. Let's tuck in some more here. Larry Kudlow joins us now. I can hear the refrain from Clara Peller from the grave. Larry going, "Where's the meat?"
So right after that, by the way, Kudlow says he doesn't even eat beef. And then they go on to talk about the evils of this. But yeah, like you said, seemingly fabricated out of thin air, which, I mean, it literally was, right? It kind of had to be, because it's based on nothing. Nothing.
So a series of things happened. One, Biden said he's going to release, like they changed their climate emissions target to be 50% cut by 2030, which is like the bare minimum of what we need, but it's also extremely aspirational, which is sort of like the handcuffs we're in of how fucked humanity is.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
The scientists tell you what you need to do, and they go, well, that's actually impossible. It's like, okay, well, I guess we're just going to like go through this now. But so anyway, they released the climate targets, and then somebody dug up an old study talking about hypothetically what we could do to curb greenhouse gas emissions through just changing our eating habits. And one of those things from a 2-year-old study from the University of Michigan was suggested, like, maybe we could cut like red meat consumption by like 90%. That was like, and right. So the Daily Mail conflated these two things.
Right.
There's the Daily Mail article. It suggests some things that could cut, but like these are like, this is like just taking random things and cutting them by 50% or picking a percentage. This has nothing to do with actual strategies to attack climate change. Like, so like it doesn't take into effect, like what if the trucks hauling the cows to the slaughterhouse were electric? Like it doesn't like factor in stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So it's just nonsense analysis. So
well, also like you said they conflated the two, but yeah, the study from the University of Michigan this is based on has literally nothing at all to do with the Biden administration or the Biden climate plan or any of that. It was literally a completely separate study on here are some things that we could do if we wanted to that would result in these positive effects where climate change is concerned. And they took that and combined it with Biden announcing this just sort of blue sky plan to reduce climate emissions and just straight up said, this is what he's saying, when they had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, it'd be like if hypothetically your wife was like, let's get romantic tonight. And your head, you go, well, that includes the possibility of group sex. And you go, I'm having group sex tonight. It doesn't quite work that way. So anyway, the two bullet point subheadlines under the headline literally say, but he has yet to release any firm details of the plan. And while Biden hasn't released the details, experts and studies have laid out what we need to change. They're doing hypothetical. It'd be like, hey, we got to cut back on household spending. You go like, I can't buy food. Like, wait, I didn't. These two things didn't. I don't know. It's just like
this is like it's right. And we've talked about before how it's like it's maddening and comically absurd and all that, but it's almost kind of like nostalgic for me when these type of scandals going on, meaning like, whereas when Trump was in office, it was some crazy shit that legitimately happened every other day, right? You know what I mean? But now from the opposing side with a Democrat in office, they literally have to just make things up, which is what they did. Obama with his mustard stain and the tan suits and all this shit and that type of thing. Like they have to just make shit up, and it is infuriating, but it's also, to me, like kind of reassuring that we're back to that, as opposed to like an existential crisis every other day or whatnot because of who the president is.
Yeah, I mean, I do live in less day-to-day fear of dying in a nuclear holocaust, but I mean, look, there is stuff legitimately criticized Biden for. It's sure, just from the left for the most part.
Right.
They can't. The only thing they have to come at Joe Biden for is stuff like hypothetically the green, like they can't even like criticize them on taxing and spending anymore because of how Trump spent like a fucking idiot. So they got nothing. They will have complaints about the details of the green energy plan, but there are no details released yet. So they're making up hamburger shit. So, but the way it manifests itself. Sorry, you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say it gave conservatives an opportunity to do their favorite type of protesting, which is being fat in protest. You know what I mean? They love that, dude. It's like when all the Chick-fil-A shit was going on, they got to line up around the block and eat 4 chicken sandwiches at once just to show the gays, you know, or whatever. And that's also happened with this because Donald Trump Jr. tweeted about it and said, I'm pretty sure I ate 4 pounds of red meat yesterday, so it's going to be a hard no from me on the subject of cutting back his red meat consumption. And this led to a swath of similar posts from conservatives who started posting the like garbage meat they were eating to own the libs. It's like, you know,
just giant hunks of burnt fucking pot roast. Just
and they're like, what do you think about that, libs?
None of these people can cook for shit. It's like, that looks awful.
Dude, look at that.
Yeah. They're getting the gout to own the libs, and I got to be honest. If you want to give yourself a stroke to make me mad, I promise to be furious right after you die. I
about to say,
promise.
for sure. Hey, it's working. I can't stand it. Keep going.
Yeah,
keep stuffing your arteries up. That's fine with me. I'm feeling real owned right now.
This got real silly. If you have the Soylent Green video, Matt, hit it.
Now, of course, this is the kind of big government foretold in the 1973 dystopian movie classic, Soylent Green. It was written actually in 1966. Here's the thing. They saw a future world was in ruins. It was in squalor, a world that ran out of food. They were relegated to eating this food substitute called Soylent Green. Of course, that is, except for the elites. They lived in luxury condos, and they still had access to things like fresh strawberries and meat. In fact, in one of my favorite scenes that sees the main character, it's played by Charlton Heston, he gets a rare chance to taste the meat, and the joy on his face, it expressed pure delight. You know what's really spooky about this whole thing? That film is set in the year 2020.
Mark.
Oh, shit.
What? I mean, I literally don't even follow what that was supposed to be. What does that mean? Are they saying like once Biden takes all your burgers away, then you're going to start eating people or whatever? Like, what's that even supposed to say?
I think he's just saying if it's heavily regulated, rich people will still get to eat steak. Which, yes, that's how America works. Rich people still get stuff the rest of us can't get. They're probably eating fucking pandas right now. I don't know, but like, what? That's a point about American capitalism and which you're for. I don't fucking understand.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's y'all's fault that happens.
Yes. And they probably where this went a little too far when they started getting reverse trolled is when Larry Kudlow on his show did this fucking stupidity.
No steaks on the Barbie. I'm sure Middle America is just going to love that. Can you grill those Brussels sprouts? So get ready. You can throw back a plant-based beer with your grilled Brussels sprouts and wave your American flag. Call it July 4th.
What kind
Do you see a problem with
beers has this motherfucker been drinking?
Has he been drinking blood? What has he been drinking?
Yeah, just fermented blood. Very popular in there. He doesn't realize that regular people drink plant-based beers all the time because that's what beer is.
Does he think red wine's adrenochrome this whole time?
Also, dude, ain't a damn thing wrong with some grilled Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
have them with your burger. That's fine. But yeah, just the horror of having a plant-based beer. My goodness. Yeah, they did. We should say, at least note that they being Fox News, they did walk it back at a certain point. They did admit that it wasn't, true, but that was after 4 days of the fear mongering or whatever. And then there was like a 10-second clip where they were like, that wasn't maybe entirely accurate. And then they moved on.
I mean, just how willfully stupid. Like, if you want to talk about unintended consequences for how stuff works, you could be like, well, if you hit these targets, you're going to have to eat less red meat. Maybe that would fearmonger people a little bit, but like, do you really think the president of the United States has any sort of power to regulate your hamburger consumption? Like, I know during World War II, meat was rations, but so we have I just don't understand that, but what mechanism they think this would actually happen. It's just ridiculous to me. But like this Daily Mail, by the way, Daily Mail is a garbage rag, and we don't use it as a source. I think we used it once for like a relationship thing for Daily Dumbass about the My Pillow guy dating Jane Krakowski. but that was I remember it because I'm like, this fucking place, this is a garbage publication. It's owned by Rupert Murdoch, but it's on his more tabloid side. And what they're doing, they started like a disinformation pipeline where they make up a story and then other Rupert Murdoch publications and broadcast outlets cover the fallout from it. Right. For example, if you might have seen another right-wing meme that the Biden administration is giving children in camps Kamala Harris's children's book, the children in the migrant detention camps. That was based upon a book library from which some locals gave books. One person gave Kamala's book, and they made it sound like the federal government's buying a bunch of copy of Kamala's book to hand out to migrant kids, which I'm not sure what. So is it good or bad to keep kids in camps? And what are we're indoctrinated to love Kamala? Like we're starting a Hitler's youth starting a Kamala's youth army in the detention camps or something. I can't figure out what the actual conspiracy theory is supposed to be. But anyway, the reporter of the New York Post, they made the New York Post Post reporter write about it. She resigned in protest today. So this phenomenon exists where they're going to make up stories, and it's going to be on your uncle's Facebook. It's in like 2 easy steps.
Yeah, like you said, it's hard to make sense of it all. It's like, well, is it this or is it that? And it's an ongoing question where they are concerned. And with that, we'll lead into our guest tonight. So little background. Every single week, my little sister who lives in Cookeville, Tennessee, will send me some article or some Facebook post from the area with rage emojis telling me how full of shit everybody is and how furious she is at the place in which she lives and how she just she's so upset. Every week there's some new bullshit that comes out of my home state. And last week she sent me one that had to do with my alma mater and 2 professors there who are coming under fire right now for some flyers they put up. And I read this and it upset me, and I wanted to share it with y'all and talk about the larger implications of it. So with that said, let's bring them out here. We got Professor Andrew Smith and Julia Gruber from Tennessee Tech University. Go Golden Eagles. But yeah, bring them out here, Matt. We'll talk about it.
Trae, my brother.
Hey, buddy.
It's Mr. Smith, Matt. You just can call me Mr.
All right.
Troy Smith from the history department is Dr. Smith. It's so good to be here.
Well,
less a bit of wings.
Thank you all for being here. So I guess I just want to start with just kind of tell us what has happened.
Julia, why don't you talk about the school board meeting? And
yes, that's kind of where it started, right?
On February the 4th, Thursday the 4th of February.
Yeah.
All right. So back in February, I went to a school board meeting. And I have been trying to advocate for the replacement of the racist All Good school mascot, the R skins.
Right.
We had been in discussion with the school board for months. And then at that February meeting, they shut the conversation down. And when they said that All Good could keep their racist mascots, someone in the back jumped up, started clapping and cheering and whoop whoop. And it wasn't that happy of a whoop whoop. It was kind of aggressive. and there were some indigenous friends of mine in the audience with their minor children who are part of the school system. And my daughter was there. And there was some racist air breathing down my neck. And later on, I found out that this was County Commissioner A.J. Donadio, who's also a professor, a nursing professor of all professors at Tennessee Tech. And he was very happy when the school board announced that the racist mascot was going to be kept in place. And so I went home and I was angry and disappointed. And I wrote my good friend Andrew Smith that, guess what? Donadio was at the school board meeting, and he also is the advisor of the newly formed chapter of Turning Point USA at Tech. And so Andrew, in his sleepless state of professor mind, came up, instead of a poem, which he usually does, he came up with a flyer. And so he sent me the flyer, and I thought, that's a pretty harsh flyer, but I'll put it up. And so the next day, I tiptoed into the nursing building where AJ Donadio works, and I put it face down, which tells you how confident I was about this flyer, on some tables. And this is where history took place.
Right. So, okay. So this guy, Donadio, who, like you mentioned, is not only a professor at Tennessee Tech, he's a county commissioner in Putnam County, where Tech is located. He was at this meeting. They opted to uphold the continued use of the racist mascot. And when that happened, he jumped up and just like started twerking in front of some indigenous peoples who were there. I know you didn't say that. Those are my words. He got excited about the result and sort of rubbed it in the face of an indigenous family that upset you. You told Andrew about it, and then Andrew told you, hey, also, he is the faculty advisor for Turning Point USA's chapter at Tennessee Tech. If anybody listening doesn't know, that's Turning Point USA of Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens fame. They've had countless scandals, or whatever you want to call it, with people, officials they have literally yelling white power, all kinds of generally undesirable situations they've gotten himself into. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, this racism scandal is one thing, but who is responsible for letting Trae have a degree? That's a big concern of mine.
Well, actually, I need you to know that I went in some old emails, Trae, and you were on the distribution list for the college Democrats. So when they ask you at the tribunal, were you ever a college Democrat?
Of course.
And I might have even been the advisor, and all my good Antifa friends hate that about me, that I would work with the college Democrats. I mean, I'm such a libtard. I mean, I had to make sure that I had the Bernie Sanders sign, before the Joe Biden sign, which we got hate mail about your sister. We got hate mail stuffed in our mailbox from a teenager saying, just horribly racist and homophobic things just because we had a Biden sign. It's really messed up. So, but I want you guys to picture this. This is me on espresso at 4 a.m. I had one of those sleepless nights, and I'm like pounding the caffeine, and I'm like, up in Photoshop and, InDesign, and I'm making this flyer, and I never thought I was going to share it with anybody. And I emailed the, little JPEG of it to a couple of people. And I think when I found out that Yulia had hung the flyer, I would be very amiss if I didn't also hang the flyer. So I went to the University Center building the next day, and it was the day of Teacher on the Radio. My, and just so you guys know, they pulled police surveillance footage of us, and I wasn't expecting that. I happened to be wearing.
That was in Newsweek.
Yeah, I've got a store from Mississippi, a blues store, Cat Head here, but I was wearing my IWW hat, trying to be Tom Morello, the International Workers of the World, and I was wearing this like very gay rainbow scarf that I actually got at a church gathering where we were advocating for gay marriage in my church, because I'm one of those like liberal Christian dudes. So, in any event, leaving the UC, I look like I might have been shoplifting from the school bookstore. I mean, it's really bad. But I hung one flyer, and I figured they would have ripped it.
We should say, I think we should cover the flyer itself. Essentially, what it was a picture taken from the other guy's Facebook of him sitting on the Game of Thrones sword throne, like with a sword or whatever, and it essentially said like, we're not down with your racist stuff here. And as part of that, and this, he's hinged a lot of the argument on this, you guys said you are on our list and we don't support you. That was a direct reference to what Turning Point USA does, which is they keep a running list of liberal professors so that they can be harassed and that type of thing. They literally maintain a list, which is what you were referencing. But what he has said is that was a direct threat to his person, and he feels unsafe because of it. And because it was a physical threat, you all should be fired. and dealt with because you threatened his safety, and that's what this all hinges on. And to me, again, literally, he's the faculty advisor for a chapter that maintains a running list of liberal professors for that exact reason. But apparently is extremely sensitive to being put on any kind of list himself, which isn't even what you were doing. It was just a reference. But again, the hypocritical nature, the overly sensitive nature of the whole thing, it's a bit much.
I do want to like because all this seems like deeply Turning Point seems like a deeply silly organization, right? But just for people to understand, they have an $8 million a year annual budget, and while Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens are clowns, they've been caught funneling dark money, which they get from petroleum, like Petroleum Institute and fossil fuel money, and probably some Koch brother money in there too, into campus elections illegally to try to rig campus elections. Now, like every right-wing scandal, this seems so stupid and cartoonish until it starts working. And what it means when it starts working is you start seeing, like free speech control on campus, stuff like professors getting run off for posting flyers about racism. So here we go. Sorry. Just wanted to say why they suck.
I just took him off my Christmas card list.
Yeah, you got like, so I'm going to read at least a little bit of an example of the hate mail you guys have been getting. Julia sent me this. So yes, a guy did some racist stuff. You called him a racist in a flyer, and that has resulted in all this shit that's come down on your shoulders, including all this hate mail you all are getting. Some of it physically comes to your houses, I found out, but this is an email here that you got. It says, well, look at you, cancel culture fascist in action. You're showcasing your university as yet another cesspool of far-left oppressive assholes. Did you really think this wouldn't get out? Did you really think you wouldn't be found out as a fascistic pile of shit? We all know who you are, princess. And when I say we, I'm talking about Americans, not the oppressive little fascist cowards that you run with. The majority of Americans are not with you, but that's because we are not self-loathing, U.S.-hating cunts like yourself. You can lambaste me all you want because I'm the white prior military and law enforcement, dang, 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 boogeyman you little cowards love to shit on while never having done a fucking thing for this nation or the people yourself other than cry and whine and suck each other's titty in the corner. Fuck you. So that's a fair representation of the kind of response you've gotten from the community there.
Trae, some of the hate mail's been worse, and I love this one. I keep getting. He's supposedly a Christian, supposedly a pastor. Right. Like you can't love Jesus and hate lynching black people. Like you can't love Jesus and hate punishing transgender children in front of like their peers. Like you can't love Jesus and want to end global climate change. And this, you brought up the veteran thing, and I don't know why I didn't think of this further. I'm pretty sure, now there's probably some veterans on the show, including the guy who wrote that email, but didn't they take an oath to defend my right to call them a racist if I want to? I mean, isn't that kind of the deal?
Well, you know what? Actually, since you said that, I saw a quote from Donadio earlier where he said, he was talking about the First Amendment, and this is another example of that hypocrisy where he said, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. That's what they're facing, is freedom from consequences. But of course, obviously, the same thing applies to what you all did to him, right? Like you say some racist shit, that doesn't make you immune to other people calling you a racist for doing it. Those are the consequences, which is exactly what happened here. But he's flipping that around and trying to use it against you all, where he's like, yeah, these are the consequences of their actions. So the hypocrisy is just multi-layered here, because he's trying to make a First Amendment stand on this while persecuting you all for the thing you said. Yeah, exactly. He's like putting it on a First Amendment foundation while trying to cancel y'all for what you said about him. So
also, to point out that someone is a racist is apparently worse than being a racist.
Right.
Yeah. And that is, there are policies or not for that, because that's what we ran into, that they couldn't find the right policy to come after us because nothing fits. They tried one about, him being a protected group. Well, white males aren't a protected group yet.
Didn't they land on the safety thing? They're trying to hinge it on you all like threatened his safety. He feels threatened by what you did.
To be
and
completely
that's what they're
honest,
trying to hang it on.
Trae, to be completely honest with you, we're not supposed to talk about tech because we love tech, and I want to keep my job. But
yeah, me too.
The investigation was handled by Human Resources. And I'm an academic and I have tenure. And so my boss is my chairperson, my dean, and the provost. Those are the people who have authority over me. So they took this out of our normal chain of command and placed it into human resources. And my understanding is that other universities, it does not work that way. And so one of the protections of tenure would be that I should have been adjudicated purely by my peers, other colleagues and other professors, and definitely my dean, my chair. You know, there is hierarchy, right? But having this, there was a police report. There's police surveillance footage. There's an HR memorandum. There's the vice president that oversees the HR department. There's all this language out of the policy book, except for the free speech policy. They didn't mention free speech policy once. Get this. The number for the free speech policy is policy 007. And they didn't quote that at all because it basically says you can be a total jerk and it's protected. Did they have those anti-choice people where they would have those gigantic zygotes, you know, fetus pictures the size of like Derryberry Hall, and they line Dixie Avenue. Oh, it's called Dixie Avenue, right? So that you would walk from, like, I used to work in Newhall North as a faculty mentor to students who lived in the dorm. To walk from Newhall North to the UC or to Henderson to one of your classes, you would have to walk through this kind of like gigantic, you know, anti-abortion, you know, media assault. And those groups have sued. Did you get the hate preacher, Trae, the guy who would yell at you and you're a harlot, you're a Jezebel, you know, don't smoke pot, you know, and they would scream at these children. That guy has no affiliation with tech. He won a lawsuit to come and yell at us whenever he wants in the name of Jesus. Can I say in the name of Jesus on this show? I don't know.
Well, okay, listen, thank you all for coming on and telling your story. I want to give you an opportunity if there's like any sort of like parting thoughts you have about what's going on here. Obviously, I'm gonna be keeping up with it. I think y'all will be okay. Ultimately, it's still bullshit what's going on, but certainly, hope the bullshit doesn't get worse. But if there's anything you all want to leave us with,
I really want that mascot replaced at the All Good middle school. There are 88 racist mascots in Tennessee alone. Some states who are further along, you know, at becoming decent are passing laws to get rid of those. But this is what this is about. We're standing up for, you know, our indigenous and black and brown friends in Cookeville, Tennessee. And it's not about us. You know, we're very privileged university professors. We will probably keep our job. And, you know, it's been a bit stressful, but this is nothing compared to the stress that our very few brown and black and indigenous people experience in this area.
Right.
Yeah. And I just want to amplify. I got involved in this movement overall to support my indigenous friend to change that mascot. But I also want the police to stop killing unarmed black people, like in Knoxville, where that young man bled out in a school bathroom. I want the state legislature to stop criminalizing transgender folk, especially their parents who want to give care to their transgender youth, and their doctors. They're criminalizing the caregivers of trans and queer folk. And so I'm going to keep wearing that rainbow scarf. I'm going to keep wearing the IWW hat because we don't have a lot of workers' rights in Tennessee, but I still belong to the union, and I encourage you to organize in your workplace like they did down in Bessemer, Alabama. There's a lot of power in organizing. So just because we're in the South doesn't mean we can't go old school and sign a union card and lock arms and walk down the street and say Black Lives Matter. Still matter. They always matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I'm not a lot makes me feel positive about my home state recently, but knowing that y'all and your ilk are there doing it goes a long way. So yeah, appreciate it. Keep doing the damn thing. And thank you all for coming on here and sharing your story. Professors Andy Smith and Yulia Gruber, everybody. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing your best to try to teach Trae to read. That was...
I crushed it at Tennessee Tech, just so you know. truly remarkable student. It's a fact. It's a fact, Mark. You may not like it, but it's a fact. But yeah, it's fun.
Producer Matt just says, now we cut the Trae reading, trying to read people's last names. This is the Q&A segment.
God damn it. Yeah, fair enough. Whatever. But yeah, no, it's weird. Like when I was in school there, and I've told this story, it's true. On election night 2008, I drove around campus with all my windows down, blasting "My president is black," right? Because I was so pumped or whatever. And I didn't think. I remember at the time in my head, I was like, "Yeah, this will hit for a lot of people," and I'm sure it did hit for some people. I didn't have a perception of it being the way that it clearly is in Cookeville, because I came from a much more rural town and a much smaller town. And Cookeville to me was like the city, and I was like, this is where the enlightened people are, because I was in college. But like some wild shit goes down there, and people are pretty intense. And yeah, I'm just glad that, somebody's on the other side of it still.
Yeah. I mean, I remember thinking like in 2010.
As BJ Wanlin just said, such hope for the future of the South. Thank goodness for people like them. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just remember thinking in 2010, 11, 12, when people like there were like polling data showing like 70% of like Republicans thought that Obama was the literal Antichrist.
Yeah.
And it was just I wonder if you could give Obama a truth serum. I'd ask him if like him getting elected was worth it, because I don't think anyone, like even me being from a small town from the South, I had no understanding of how crazy it would drive white people to have a black president.
Dude,
I did not see it coming. It's just like,
I think most of them never conceived of it happening. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember knowing rednecks that were like in Salina when Hillary was just starting to run and Obama was just starting to run, and them being like, it won't never happen. Look at me, I'm gonna tell you right now, it won't never happen. And so I think that's how a lot of them felt. They never considered it as a real possibility. And when it happened, but they were thrown for a major loop and did not react well.
I'm pretty cynical about America, but like Trump getting elected really did fuck with my whole image of forever with my image of what America is and who lives here.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I felt that I was in that exact same position, but reversed for Donald Trump. I didn't think it would actually ever come to that. And then it did.
I literally, maybe I was too cynical about America, because I just assumed that the CIA wouldn't let him hold power. It's like he's too erratic. They can have any other right winger, and Obama will still let them drone people. So why wouldn't they just make it look like a heart attack? I don't understand. Like they had 1,000 ways cooked up to kill Fidel Castro and make his beard fall out and shit. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to make Trump go to sleepy time. But I remember.
Says, did you say Salina? Bless you. Cookeville is the big city. Yes, Salina's my hometown. Cookeville's where I went to college at, and Cookeville was the big city to Salina. And just so people know, Cookeville's a town of I think there's a college there, and I think when school is in session, and I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but I think it's like 40,000 people, something like that, when school is in session. So it's not a city. But coming from Salina, where we ain't have no traffic lights or Walmarts or nothing, it was a metropolis to me.
I was just thinking about how crazy people got. I remember when was Bin Laden killed? That was 2011, right?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I was doing a bar show, and of course, you get the news note, the tweets. You see the tweets pop up. The president's called an emergency address at 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday night or whatever, and you're like, well, the president doesn't talk on weekend nights, and it's nighttime on a Sunday, so like, this is going to be some fucking real. It's going to be zombies get headshots. Everybody's on your own. That's what's going to be when the president comes on TV that particular time. And Bin Laden's killed, and everybody's like, there's like 15 of us in a dive bar. People are like, yeah, fuck Bin Laden, whatever. This guy is like one of those projection screens, TVs. This guy is up this close to the screen, flipping it off, yelling "fuck you" at Obama. It was like
during the news of Osama bin Laden being killed. Yeah, that was his immediate response: "Is fuck you for taking down the 9/11 guy."
don't even think he heard what Obama said. It didn't matter.
Oh,
Just
right.
like
I'm sure he
and
didn't. Yeah.
And I wanted to be clear here. I have no evidence that this guy personally knew Obama or anything. just yelling at a two-dimensional image of him with every fiber of his being, just hating the motherfucker. And I'm betting it wasn't over his tax policies or whatever. So,
yeah. Do you think there was this like sort of philosophy with the, oh wait, hang on, let's do this first. Assuming you know about it, Mark. Brandy Ray Sheffy, hope I got that right, says, what's up with this audit in Arizona?
So a bunch of like wingnut legislators and random media personalities have managed to do a ballot. They're auditing the election in Arizona. They're going over ballots with UV lights and different kinds of pens and all kinds of shit. I don't really understand the details of what they're trying to accomplish, but people have been able to sneak in back doors and left everything unlocked. So I have no idea if I'm fairly certain the election wasn't rigged, but this audit could very easily be rigged. So it's going to be, whatever comes out of it's going to be funny.
So this headline that producer Matt just sent us from The Guardian says, Arizona Republicans deploy cyber ninjas in pro-Trump election audit. So yeah, I didn't know about it until it was brought up just now, but I mean that all checks out. Cyber ninjas. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those things that I don't think they're ever gonna just like let go of. You know,
it's the new,
no matter what, it's gonna keep being a thing for them, and that's just gonna have to be fine for the rest of us, I think.
It's going to be, you know, you get the lost cause, Southern mythology. You've got like we would have won, and we would have won Vietnam if the hippies hadn't turned the people back against. It's like all this shit where it's like
yes,
they can never
analogy. The lost cause thing, and that's still a thing amongst racists in the South and everything. You know, going over 150 years later, it's still a thing. And this most recent election will 100% be one of those things for that same amount of time, I think. Yeah. Not that we were in a literal antebellum civil war place when Trump was in office, but I'm just saying they ain't letting it go.
Nope. It'll always be that Trump won and it got stolen, and they can never explain why liberals don't just keep stealing elections. Like, why would there ever be a Republican president?
Or in this, which we talked about on the show, like we made liberals the daily dumbass that night for not thinking to also steal all the Senate races at the same time. Like, we just didn't think about that. We were so busy stealing the presidential race that we left the Senate up for grabs for a while. But yeah, none of it. Like, if we could do that, like you said, why wouldn't we just always do that? You know, maybe you got a couple races here and there that you make it so, you know, it's not so obvious, but we would never let them be in a position to actually retain any power if we had the ability to do what they're saying that we do. It's ridiculous.
Here's the last thing. Here's what drives me crazy about conspiracy theories of all types is usually you have to ignore a bunch of real world evil shit to get mad about the secret shit, right? Like for example, we talked about earlier in a text thread where Drew I don't want to throw out names, but somebody in his social media had this insane conspiracy theory about the Oklahoma City bombing being cover to blow up evidence against Hillary Clinton because she was about to be indicted for whitewater. So they blew up a whole federal building with 300 some people, whatever. But like, if you want to be concerned about evil shit going on in the world, look how proprietary drug companies are being about the vaccines, and that's causing a lot of deaths around the country and not first world nations, right? So like the evil shit, the elections are rigged in America. They're done in advance by gerrymandering and redistricting and voter suppression. Stuff just generally making you sad about politics is a voter suppression tactic. Mm-hmm. This stuff happens on the front page of the goddamn newspaper. Right. If you want to accuse liberals of stealing elections, trying to give felons the right to vote is our version of doing that. But it happens in public. You can read about it in the newspaper. There's no secret shit going on. That's where Republicans get mad when you call them racist for doing it, because you're pointing out the shit they're doing. They don't want you pointing it out, but it's not secret. It's not hidden. It's never hidden. It's like it's too hard to hide.
Buddy, Preach. You just said it all as far as I'm concerned. Natalie Nickel. Hey, Natalie. Good to see you again. Friend of the show. Says, any thoughts on Tucker Carlson's newest stunt, pushing mask confrontations? How can such a moron be so dangerous? So, yeah, apparently Tucker Carlson on his show encouraged people to confront mask wearers or people saying you should wear a mask.
Yeah, he told people to flip the script on mask wearers by telling them that wearing a mask makes you uncomfortable. Like, you wearing a mask makes me uncomfortable. And then he also said it's like if children are at risk for the virus of dying of it for the most part, which is technically true, they do spread it though. That why is it like isn't making them wear a mask a form of child abuse? And shouldn't you call CPS on them? So he's encouraged his viewers to call Child Protective Services on parents or the children wearing masks. Heads up, don't do that. False reports of child abuse are a crime, and you will go to jail if you bug social workers and cops with frivolous calls about dumb shit. So he's trying to get his own viewers arrested, apparently. So.
Well, if they're reliably going to go to jail for doing that thing, then I mean, yeah, do it. Call them on me. That's fine. You see mine out with mask on. I mean, you know, here in Southern Cal, I have young children. They go to school and everything, and like they're literally required to wear a mask. You can't, you know, it's a rule. So please call the cops on me and tell them that I'm abusing my children by making them wear masks. You know, Tucker Carlson's always been wild to me because I can remember like when I first became aware of him, which is, I mean, shit, man, at this point, probably over 10 years ago, when all that shit went down with him and Jon Stewart. You know, that was the first time I ever kind of became aware of him. And at the time, he was the bow tie guy. You know, and he was just such a caricature. And it's not that he's not anymore, but the idea that dude, if you had told me then that guy would become a genuine, like, powerful voice in American political discourse, I would not have believed it. You know, Jon Stewart just dunking on his ass. And again, he's wearing a bow tie and everything. Bow ties are fine, but y'all know what I mean. I've never taken a person less seriously than I did Tucker Carlson when I first found out about him. And the fact that he's become this big power player like he has is just so discouraging.
And you follow him through the years. It's not even clear that he means anything he's saying, except that if you don't know anything about Tucker, he's heir to the Swanson chicken fortune. He grew up in a wealthy neighborhood in the Bay Area and went to a nice private school. And someone dug up his private school yearbook last week. And under his this joke he put in the yearbook under his clubs that he was president of the Dan White Society. Dan White is the guy who shot and killed Harvey Milk, the gay city councilman who was a civil rights figure in the 80s. So that's the clearest evidence that he's always been a piece of shit. Because he did moderate himself. Because that was that show you're talking about, that was Crossfire on CNN. He was a CNN personality for a while and was very mildly right wing at that point. It was just the most right wing thing about him was his bow tie. But apparently he was a monster the whole time. He was pretending not to be. So he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson's a piece of shit. You heard it here last, everybody. That's us. That's it for us on this episode of Weekly Skews. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, and we'll have a good